What's up, everybody? You're tuned in to the GM podcast. We are, again, stuck in traffic on the 101. Actually, no, I'm sorry. This is the 5 freeway in Los Angeles. In case you guys are not familiar with LA traffic, it is the worst. I would say it's one of the worst in California. But nevertheless, this is my job. This is what I have to do, and this is what I got to get through. Today, we wanted to talk about quitters and how this impacts our lives. Fill them in, partner.
Yeah, first of all, that's a great introduction. I like how you accepted that this is your job, and I like the fact that you accepted that because this is your job, that there is traffic. And so that makes your life easier, I think, having that type of mentality. So good job, partner.
Thank you.
So today we're talking about quitters. And why is this so important if it's not already obvious? Well, you tend to quit on things. You tend to quit on your future. You know, a lot of people don't realize that even quitting the simplest task, let's say, for instance, you have a tedious task of putting away paperwork at your office. You hate it, and so you don't do it. And so every time you look at that stack of paperwork, you say, you know, I'm not gonna do it. Screw it. I'm not for this job, or I'm not for this task. You're quitting already. But as insignificant as that task is, or you might think that's not a big deal, what happens is you begin to form patterns. You form patterns of quitting even the most insignificant detail, and you create a habit. And if you have listened to our podcast, I have, because I read that it takes about 20 to 30 days of consistency to form either a bad habit or a new habit. So when you quit little tasks, what you're doing is you're adding a habit, a bad one. So that is why quitting anything is not a good idea.
Here's a good one. Quitting on your health. That is, for me, that's a big no-no.
Yep.
It really does kick your ass at the end of the day. What do you think?
Well, yeah, quitting on your health. You know, people don't see it like that, though. People say, well, how am I quitting on my health? That's not accurate, because I love myself. I love myself so much that I indulge in cheeseburgers, and I love myself so much that I indulge in sodas,
Donuts
and candy. So people might not see it as, wait a minute, I'm not quitting on my health. But if you, in fact, intake all of those things we just mentioned, plus some, then you really are kind of quitting on your health. So I think that's what my partner is referring to, people who quit on their health. And then plus on top of eating crap, on top of that, you don't move or you don't exercise. And that's a huge, obviously, quitting on your health. Right? So the reason why we're doing this podcast is because we like to discuss quitting. I only know about quitting because the old version of Gabby used to quit anything possibly difficult. I've always been a hard worker. I've always maintained my jobs for many, many years. So I never quit on jobs like that. Like, I was always very steady. But when it came to tasks that challenged, especially my cardio, I used to quit on, I told you, I shared a story of the time that I tried to, when I was very heavy, when I was obese, I tried to lose some weight, and I hired what are they called? A personal trainer. And because she worked me out so hard, I quit. I fired her because I didn't want her to make me do all these sit-ups anymore. That's pathetic. And I think about it now, and I'm just like, seriously, Gabby, that's pathetic. Or any little thing that seems scary, the old Gabby would have been like, oh yeah, I'm not doing that. No, never mind. So the old Gabby knows all about quitting, but the new Gabby, the new improved Gabby, does not know about quitting, because I refuse to give up, and I refuse to let problems, I refuse to let roadblocks or little hiccups along the road, I refuse to let them stop me. So I don't know about quitting. And I hope that people, hopefully if they kind of, if they're a little bit open-minded, and I know we're putting little silly scenarios and examples, but if they really listen to what I'm trying to say, they would really understand that even quitting the simplest little task will accumulate to quitting bigger tasks. What do you think about that, partner? Do you agree?
Absolutely. Quitting for me has been a challenge in my life also. I'm sure it's been a challenge for a lot of people out there. And when it comes to my type of quitting, I like to quit bad habits. And in this case, since I'm also new and improved Manny, I also have quit on certain relationships that get me seriously nowhere. But nevertheless, the commitment to have for you to start something new, something that's very not beneficial, but also like a new start for you to, like, let's take for instance the New Year's resolution. I would say at least 75-80% people quit their New Year's resolution.
Yep.
And why give yourself the satisfaction, or why put yourself in a comfort zone when you know that it's just gonna get you nowhere, right?
Yes. And you know what, actually, I like what you said earlier about quitting like bad stuff, quitting bad habits. So that's a good point, because there is good to quitting some things.
Yeah, like I told you guys before, I wasn't severely addicted to these opioid drugs, but I was into them. It was a problem. I was smoking cigarettes. A lot of people knew this, but I quit that too. I started looking after my health a little bit better, and I haven't quit drinking.
Wow.
But no, there's things that really need us to actually live without.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if everybody comes to a conclusion that whether you're creating bad habits or you're creating good habits, it's gonna your future is going to be impacted. Obviously, hopefully people see it that way. So whether you quit bad things that hurt you emotionally, or you quit things that hurt you mentally, those are good type of quits.
Yeah.
But if you quit things that are going to actually improve your lifestyle and actually help you get to the next level, then you're actually quitting on yourself. So you made a good point, partner. There are good things you could quit on, which are the things that are toxic to your life. Like I said, whether it's mentally or health-wise or physically or emotionally, like if it's hurting you physically, I do jujitsu and I get hurt sometimes, but I don't see that as a bad type of hurt. I enjoy the sport. It's an amazing sport. I have grown mentally, physically. So I think the good outweighs the bad. But I think people know what I'm talking about. If you're hurting yourself physically, maybe cutting yourself or hurting yourself in other ways to compensate for feelings that or emotions that haven't been dealt with, quitting on relationships that are bad for you, quitting on friendships, those type of quits, I say yay. But nay for the ones that actually help you improve your life. I'd like to take a little moment to actually shout out people in my life who have never quit and who have actually improved their life. And this is evidence. People nowadays talk about show me the evidence. Well, you need to focus and look at the people who've actually made it. And I'm not even talking about, they don't have to be billionaires or millionaires, but people, average people who came from zero and now they have something to show for because they've never ever quit. I like to discuss some people, or not discuss, but I like to share some of their stories because they have been an impact in my life, and I highly, highly admire them. They might not know it, but they do. And I share their stories, actually. I share their stories when I'm sharing stories of motivation. One of the persons I like to express my gratitude and tell them how much they mean to me and how much I admire them is my sister Anna. She just completed the Marines. I mean, my little sister, she's the baby. She's the baby sister of 8 kids. She was going to college. She's very smart. I mean, my sister is so smart. And, you know, she is the baby of 8. So therefore, she kind of got the shitty end of the stick, to be honest. Like, nobody really paid attention to her. Nobody really like listened to what she had to say. We all just kind of brushed her off because she was the baby. So she was kind of like that annoying child. Like, what do you want? Get out of here. You know, and that never stopped her. She never used that as an excuse to say, well, now I'm a bum because nobody loved me in my household, or I'm a dropout of high school because my mom and my dad never paid attention to me. You know, my sister has this thing inside of her that always allowed her to fight. She almost died when she was born. She was born with a lung infection that didn't allow her to breathe properly, and she actually suffered with speech impairment. You know, her infection in the lungs, being the youngest out of 8 kids, being ignored. She kind of had the odds against her, and that little girl surpassed us all. She finished high school with like flying A's. I mean, she like the highest of the highest classes. She went to college, and this is where the story kind of gets twisted. She went to college for about 3 years, and she decided to drop out because it wasn't challenging enough. That's for me, this is, when I heard her story, I was like, are you fucking with me? She dropped out of college because it wasn't challenging enough, and she joined the Marines. She wanted to get pushed to her limit. And you know what the little girl's doing now? My little sister, I'm so proud to say, she is a helicopter. I think it's a helicopter or an airplane. To be honest with you, I'm sorry.
I thought it was an aviation mechanic.
She's an aviation mechanic. But I think she's working either on helicopters right now, or she is just working strictly on airplanes. But she's studying to be a mechanic for the military. That is like, who the fuck can say that everyday Joe? Like, here's a little girl who was about to die when she was a little girl. All the odds were against her. Growing up in a household of 8 kids, being ignored pretty much, because honestly, it was really sad. Sometimes I would catch myself like, "Hey, Anna, how come you didn't tell me about your band concert?" Because she was also in a band. And she would say like, "I did, Gabby, but I think you were too busy." And that really made me feel bad. Like, I really regretted a lot of things that I didn't pay much attention to my sister, not because I don't love her, but because we all have our own families and we're all in our own world. And, you know, so huge shout out to my sister. She never fucking gave up on herself. She knew that she was better than what she was dealt with, and she dealt with it. And now she's in the military fixing planes, or about to fix planes or helicopters for the military. Isn't that, I mean, don't you think that's pretty cool?
Yeah, that's a good inspiration of not quitting on yourself. And speaking of which, you know, I since we want to talk about,
Yep.
you know, or not really families, but people that really inspired us, and people that just didn't give up, you know, that didn't quit along the process. I like to shout out my parents. You know, they've come from, you know, especially my dad. He's come from an area where there's all there is isolation there. You know, you do have a neighbor, but it's and not even the neighbors are, you know, up to, you know, your speed. They can, you know, they're pretty shady themselves, even though they could be family. But you know, let alone what my dad did. You know, he left his home at a very young age. I think for a lot of immigrant parents, have done the same. But my dad especially, man, I have to give it up to him, because he left his home. He left his home to better himself. He left his home to actually provide for his family. At the time, he didn't have a family, but, you know, you can't really bring a family into that type of environment where there's nothing there for you. Yeah. If there's nothing to offer, you can hardly make ends meet. It's just, it's really bad, you know. But anyway, my dad never gave up. My dad never quit. My dad never threw his hands up in the air and said, you know, I can't do this. And, you know, when he met my mom, they both gave it their all. You know, I especially, like, my mom, we, I remember her coming home, you know, after a long, hard days of work and having to prep us meals, having to prep my dad's meals, you know, and it really felt homey, you know. So, yeah, big shout out to my parents for never quitting on us, even though some of us were pretty bad kids. I mean, not all of us, but, you know, I would say they had their hands full with us, you know. But, yeah, big shout out to them, mom and dad. You guys got an A+ on my my bargain.
Yeah, man, your parents, you know, and thanks to your dad is how you got into the truck driving business.
Yeah, definitely. He taught me how to drive, and from there I started my business.
And he started his.
And he started his when he started his company maybe about 12 years ago, 15 years ago, and he just, as much as people were reluctant to pay him sometimes, he never gave up. He showed up to work every day. He gave it his all. And, you know, if there were delinquent payments, he didn't care, you know. He knew what his task was. And that gives me a lot of inspiration, you know. That's taught me to actually give it all what I've got to offer on my business, because not everybody's gonna, you know, how can I say this? Not everybody's gonna be an A+ student when it comes to these situations.
Yeah, man, big shout out to your dad. You know, it's because of him that he was able to allow us a stepping stone into the truck driving business too. So big shout out to Francisco Lua.
Thank you.
I like to give another shout out to my sister-in-law Kenya. She might not know this, but, you know, I hear her story and I get really inspired, because I'm like, wow, she's a fighter, dude. She is a fighter. She's also from an immigrant family, but she came to the United States as a, I think it was like a teenager, if I recall correctly, you know, without her consent, because, I mean, you're a child. What kind of say so do you have? You know, so she came and she struggled a lot in high school. She was being bullied because she didn't know the language, and she expressed her frustration with herself. You know, she felt pathetic because she couldn't communicate and they bullied her. You know, she talks about some of the girls like throwing gum in her hair, calling her names. Devastating. So she told herself, I'm going to learn English, and I'm going to learn it, and I'm going to learn it quick. So when I met my sister-in-law, you know, she's been with my little brother. I mean, they've been together since they were like 14 or 15 years old. So when I met her, I think she came to the U.S., I think she was like 13 or 12. So when I met her when she was like 15, she knew fluent English, and I had no idea that she had just came like 2 years, because who learns English that well in 2 years? So when I started talking to her and she told me her story, and I'm like, wait, what? You learned English in 2 years or whatever, a year and a half or 2 years? My mind was blown, because she could speak like the way I'm speaking right now. Like, she speaks perfect English, and I couldn't believe it. You know, and that's not the only reason why I admire her, because she has always had that fight to better herself. You know, her and my brother, they got married very young. You know, this is what they wanted. They wanted to get married young. They live together. They're fighting really hard to buy themselves their house. You know, she works for the school district now. You know, she's trying to get all her situation in order. Like, I really look up to people like her, because she doesn't use her, again, I'm gonna go back and forth. She doesn't use her circumstance to blame other people, or to, exactly, she doesn't use her dilemmas and her and how she was brought up as an excuse to be a loser, to be a quitter, or to be an abuser of government money. So I admire her because it doesn't matter where you come from. You have an opportunity to change your circumstances. Everybody has a story. Everybody. Let's go on to your next one, partner.
Oh, yeah. A big shout out to my ex-boss. His name is Byron. As I began to work with him, you know, I was overweight myself, you know, and if you listen to the other podcast that we have, I mentioned that I was a little overweight as well. You know, I've always been husky kid, but as a young adult, I've always wanted to look, you know, a certain way, or I always wanted to be a little fitter. I would run into these situations, even with some friends, you know, where we'd go running for one day out of the whole week. I thought we were making an impact, but we weren't doing shit. But you know, but at the end of the day, you know, I look back at those moments and I've quit on myself. At those moments, and I couldn't tell myself why. I didn't have an answer. You know, the excuses were there. I had a ton of them, you know. But once I started working with this guy Byron, I was inspired to see him, or to actually hear about his morning, how he would run about 5 to 6 miles, and then having to go to work. And I was like, damn.
You can do that.
Yeah, like, no, I was like, fuck, I don't want to do that shit. But more and more as I worked with him, you know, throughout the years, I worked with him for a couple years, and I started to develop my running, you know, my daily runs, and you know, I was losing weight, but I couldn't really tell on my end, you know, because when you look at yourself in the mirror daily, it's just like, you see slight, you know, changes or slight tweaks, but it's not like a major impact. But man, I would go to work, you know, thinner, not knowing myself, and he'd be like, dude, you're fucking losing weight. And I'm like, really? He's like, yeah, man, like, keep at it. Like, and I was just like, man, I'm just trying to like catch up to you, you know. And these inspirations, they work in miracles. They you know, they impact you in a different type of form, but they work miracles when you are with the people that you are, you know, that you're the average of 5 people that you hang around with. So if you're gonna hang around with losers, again, you're gonna hang around with losers, you're gonna be one. Let me put it this way: if you're hanging around with 5 losers, you're gonna be the 6th. Okay, but no. Aside from all that, you know, the guy taught me how to actually dig down deep in my well and pull all the goodness out. So thanks a lot, Mr. Byron, for listening to these podcasts. I now know how to take care of myself in a physical fitness type of way, and but let alone, like, I didn't quit on myself from that, which led me to going into the gym, lifting weights, getting cut, getting, you know, I'm a little bulkier right now, but it's
COVID.
Yeah. But no, man, it's, you know what, it's nothing that you can't unlearn.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And if you could do it all over again, just make sure that you're doing it 10 times better.
There you go, man. So people who inspire us on a daily, that's why we touch bases on this particular subject on one of our other podcasts, that you got to be careful who you hang around with. You have to, because they do rub off on you. Even if you consider yourself to be the strongest mentally the strongest mentality, people tend to rub off on you. You start mimicking them, either the way they speak or their ideas, whatever. So be careful who you hang around with. I like to give another shout out to my jiu-jitsu professor, Francisco Guzman. Check him out. He's at Logic. It's a Logic Jiu-Jitsu out in Laverne. If you look him up, you could see our IG page. It's a great gym, beautiful environment. People are very nice. His story, I don't know it very well, so I can't he sit here and pretend I know his whole backstory, but he told me a little bit about it. I remember him, I asked him, I said, what inspired you to, why did you want to do jiu-jitsu? Like, why did you want to be a teacher? And he says he loved it. He loves jiu-jitsu very much. He was always, he always wanted to have his own gym, his own students. From what I remember last, he left, or he separated from his sensei so that he has the blessing from his sensei, from his teacher, to start his own school. And I think there was a time and point where he surpassed the students that his own teacher, his own sensei had. And that's wonderful. And I'm sure his teacher, his sensei, is very proud of him. Not when he started his gym, from what he told me, he sold his house. He sold his house for his dream. And I believe too, he sold his car. He sold his house, he sold his car for his dream. And that, you guys, is a very scary thing to do, because you're literally gambling your entire your life, your home. So and I bet you anything, a lot of people said, you're crazy, I don't want to go, I don't want to do this with you, or you know what, you're crazy, I don't want to be your friend, or you're crazy, I don't want to hang out with you no more, because people tend to think that people like him are cuckoo, they're crazy. You know what, dude? You're insane. So he sold his house, he sold his car to start the gym. And, you know, he went on foot, he passed out like a lot of flyers, and he started his gym before I joined his gym. So I heard his story, and it inspired me, because I'm like, holy shit, man. And I know that good things happen to good people. You know, I know some bad things happen, but hey, this is life, and we get dealt with little hiccups along the road. But it's amazing. He surpassed his teacher. He has a lot more students than his teacher, and he's only been in business, I believe, 3 going on 4 years, if I'm not mistaken. And in his first or second year of business, he surpassed the number of students that his teacher has. And now, if you fast forward, he now has his own clothing line, his own jiu-jitsu brand. He has his kimonos. He has his rash guards. He has his shorts. He has his pants. Like, this is a story that he sold everything he had for a dream, and he made it happen. And to me, that's like, holy crap, man. Like, that's amazing. You know, and I think we all kind of go through a point in our lives where we're not sure if what we're about to do is the smartest or the greatest idea. But a lot of situations is, if you don't take the gamble, you're never gonna fucking know. So shout out to my coach. Shout out Professor. I just saw him this morning. I started training again, so I feel great. But yeah, shout out to him, man.
That's great. These stories, man, they mean something to us, you know, which, you know, fast forward to now, which has led us to not be quitters. Dude, if I can replay everything that I've all the cards that I've been dealt with, I know that at some point I'd probably quit once again, but I'm glad that I did the things that I did, because I'm not a fucking quitter. So I like to shout out myself. I think that I've gotten to a point in my life where I know that the situation isn't that bad, you know, and if I can overcome this daily brutal beating that I get on a daily basis, you know, I can continue with what the hell I'm doing, you know, and I'm not gonna give in to myself. I'm not gonna give in to my brain telling me that today's not worth it. No, man, every day is a good breathing moment for us to sit back, reflect, and to actually start reaping these rewards that we're destined for. And you know what, partner? I wish you would just quit hogging the mic. I'm just playing.
Wow.
Nah, man, I want to give a shout out to you too, man. You showed me a great way to greatness. So thank you, my friend. And I'm glad that we've met, because I know that you and I are not fucking quitters.
Hell no. And no, I'm not going to give up hogging up the mic. Yeah, man, thank you. I really appreciate that very much. You know, I'm a fighter within my own self because I've had no choice. Either, well, no, let me rephrase that. You do have a choice. You have a choice whether to quit and just give up and say, well, fuck it, nobody loves me, nobody cares about me. I'm just gonna sit right here and hope for things to happen for me. Life doesn't work that way, and I think most of us know that. But why do we choose to just sit there and weep? So thank you very much. I appreciate that because I choose every single day to never quit. Even when shit hits the fan, man, damn. Sometimes you wonder why the hell we're even doing what we're doing. And you know what? It's quitting is not in my dictionary. I never really told a story about my dad, my stepdad. My dad, he is my dad. But I have to just clarify because people are gonna be like, wait, I thought her dad was dead. My stepdad, he is my dad, and he raised me. But nobody really knows the story about my dad. He suffered a really bad accident, a back injury, when my dad was, I want to say like in his early 30s. He suffered a back injury that caused him to have 2 open back surgeries. Really bad. He has like the old school scars, you know, the ones that look like.
Oh yeah, like there's a straight line and then the 2 staples.
Yeah, he has a really, really bad scar in the back of his spine. But the doctors, okay, so my dad was a bodybuilder. He is a bodybuilder, but back in the day, in his 20s, he was a professional bodybuilder. For those who don't know, he's been lifting weights since he was like 15, 16 years old, and he's always loved to hit the weights. So when he was about 20 something, he did it professionally. And in fact, he placed second place in the whole nation of Mexico. He has his trophy. He was second place for Mexico, bodybuilding. So my dad really loved it. So can you imagine having an accident at work that causes you to almost be paralyzed, to a bodybuilder, yet alone a normal person who doesn't really do like activities, physical. Yeah. But can you imagine a bodybuilder or an athlete to be told you're never going to walk again? So
they want you to quit.
They want you to quit, exactly. So my dad, the odds were against him, and in fact, the doctor told my mom that your husband might never walk again, just to let you know. And my mom was devastated. And can you imagine how my dad took? I remember listening to my dad. He used to weep at night, and it was very heartbreaking to hear. It's very heartbreaking to hear a man cry, because the society has built us to believe that men shouldn't cry, and if you do cry, like you're really hurt. Like a man is really hurt when he cries. So to hear my dad weep was really sad. But my dad never ever quit, and in fact, he said, a doctor is not going to tell me whether I can walk or not. That is my choice. And you know, my dad dealt with a lot of pain. He still does. My dad is actually, they told my dad he would never walk, and if he did, it was going to be maybe 10 years. Thank God it's almost been 30 years, and my dad's not only walking, but he lifts weights still. Yeah. The doctor had told my dad he couldn't lift more than 2 pounds. Can you imagine that? Shit. 2 pounds. That's like barely a cat. Yeah. So, or a freaking hammer. So my dad is almost 60 years old. My dad is such a hardworking man. My dad, you will never see my dad sitting down unless he's done for the day. Right. He sits down when he's done. But he is a hardworking man. You never know when he's hurting, because my dad's always in pain. Always. My dad says that he doesn't remember when was the last time he didn't feel pain. And that sucks. And my dad doesn't pop pills, which is another amazing thing. It's funny because my dad says, Mija, it's so hard when you're in pain to not take the easy way out and take a pill to soothe your pain. But my dad's like, I was always afraid of falling victim to the addiction. So my dad went cold turkey with the pain. So can you imagine in his back? It's unimaginable. Right. So my dad is a bodybuilder still. He's almost 60 years old, and he is one of the strongest men that I know. And my dad is one of my heroes.
Oh, yeah, man, that's awesome, man. I think we all can use some type of inspiration like that in order for us to say, you know what, screw this. I'm not quitting. I could have quit myself, man, a long time ago. After my accidents, after having knee surgeries, I could have quit running, but I didn't. You know, you guys can't give up on yourself so damn easily.
That's right.
Yeah, we're getting close to our destination, so we are going to quit this podcast for the day. But once again, we have plenty of topics for you guys. Are you done, partner, or you want to give some? Yeah. One more for you guys.
I just want to give a shout out really quick to my mom. Is she's such a trooper, man. She's such a fighter. I know we're coming close to our destination, and if we had all the time in the world to appreciate those that we really love and those who we hold dear in our hearts, my mom is a fighter, man. People say that I speak like her. People say that I tend to move like her because we're relentless. Me, my mom, my sisters, if you get to talk to my sisters, you see a little bit of my mom. My mom's a fighter, and she will never take no for an answer. And my mom grew up in the streets of Mexico. No food, no house, but they made it work. My mom says we had nothing. Sometimes we didn't. She was like, you never want to know what hunger feels like. And, you know, my mom is now a teacher. She's a teacher, a ballet folklorico teacher. That's a whole nother struggle she had. She teaches school districts now. School districts. And she laughs because she says, I never in my wildest dream thought that a school in the United States was ever going to hire me to teach Mexican folklorico dancing. My mom used to get, when she started her career in dancing, she used to get milk cartons and oranges thrown at her, and they used to call her wetback. So can you imagine? Now she's getting paid.
Hey, she could have quit then. Now she's getting paid.
Now she's getting paid for it, and this is her passion.
Right.
Another quick shout out I want to give is to my Aunt Lily. My Aunt Lily, you know, my Aunt Lily and my mom are sisters. So they both come from the same fighting family. My Aunt Lily, I think she never boasts. She never talks about herself. But my Aunt Lily's a freaking millionaire, man. My Aunt Lily came from zeros. She's the oldest, actually. So she's the one who moved her family. She's the one who showed her family to get out of the ghetto, to get out of she fought for her family. And because of my Aunt Lily and because of her other older sister, my tia Mayuki, they both made it. My Aunt Lily is a fucking millionaire, and I know she doesn't like to talk about it, but my Aunt Lily owns multiple businesses. She owns apartments. She owns a ranch, a 40-acre ranch. Come on now. And you know what? She deserves every penny. If you guys would know how much my family has struggled to be here, how much my family has struggled to make it, and even the little bit that they do have, you know, aside from my aunt, of course, but the little bit that they have it with pride, and they have it with a whole lot of integrity and honor. So your circumstances mean nothing. Get your ass out there. You know what it does mean? It means you have a slight disadvantage of somebody who has a better life. You have a disadvantage. It doesn't mean a no. So I hope that people take this message, you know, and say, damn, my life ain't that bad, I guess. And we're literally summarizing what they've been through and their struggles in like a minute paragraph for each, a minute or two for each of them. But you know what, man? You have the power to change your life. You have the power to create a better future for yourself. And I hope that we're able to give off the passion and love through these mics, because we really mean it. And you can create a whole better you with never quit what is benefit. Never quit what's going to challenge you. Never quit what scares you. Quit the bad stuff. Quit the bad shit. Quit the bad friendships. Quit the job that's giving you high blood pressure. That's what you need to quit. But challenge yourself on a daily. Tell yourself that you can make it. Tell yourself that you deserve it. And trust me, it's going to happen for you.
Woo! Fire. Fire, you guys. We got more fire for you guys coming. Stay tuned. We out.
That's right, guys. Stay safe out there.
Peace.